Okay, we have a CD player here without any overcurrent protection in it from the factory. There's no line fuse. So we're going to drill a hole. And we'll drill it right here. Oops, there's writing here, so I can't put it there. So I'll put it right here. And we'll take the vacuum cleaner. Okay, so we'll take this wire out of the holder here. This is the fuse block we'll be using, and it fits right in there nicely. Okay, so we're going to cut the live side of the cord here. Carefully not to cut into the white side. And we'll pull it back. And I'll make sure I didn't cut into the neutral side, and I didn't. And I didn't hit this wire with the drill, and I didn't hit that one with the drill. Okay, so I'll take the fuse block here and I'll sand this here so it makes a good flow-through connection, a good flow of solder. See how I rough that up just a little bit? Same with this side. Okay, so we're ready to solder our wires. So we'll strip them with the, I'll use the 16 gauge hole so I don't break any strands off. I'll twist them together here. I'm going to use the rosin core solder here from Radio Shack and flux. So I'm going to take and clean our tip real good here. I'm going to put some solder on the iron there on our nice clean tip. I'm going to take and put some flux on the end of the soldering wire here. Okay, so I'll be taking this wire, I'll put it through the hole there. I'm going to make sure no strands are sticking out on the other side. Flatten them down nice and flat. I'll take the flux, I'll put it on the wire and the terminal there. And very carefully I'll drop solder the wire on the solder onto the terminal, heating both the wire and the terminal. Okay, so I'm going to have to put a little more solder on there because it didn't quite fill it. And I'll put a little more flux. There we go, that's a nice flow of solder there. Still a little grainy, so, and I don't like that, so I'm going to just stick a little more solder on here, and I'll put a little more flux. Now it's nice and warm, so I'll melt the flux around on there. And I'll do the same thing again. Heating both the wire and the terminal, I'm going to let it flow. There we go, we got a nice solder joint there. I'm going to let that cool. Okay, now I'm ready to do the same thing on this side. Put the wire through the hole. Look, make sure no strands are poking through. I'm putting this on the live side of the power cord. And get some flux. Put some flux on the copper and on the terminal there. Put some more solder on my iron. I'll come over here and heat both the wire and the terminal. Let it get a nice flow. Boy, we got a real nice flow there. Let that cool a minute. Turn it over. Nice flow through on both. Well, we didn't get too much of a good flow through on the back there, so I'm going to get a little more flux here while that's still somewhat kind of warm. Get some underneath there and some on the top. Clean the tip. Put some more solder on the iron. And I'll just reheat that again. I'll heat it from the bottom. There we go. There we go. Now we got a nice solder joint. Okay, this wire's a little crooked over here, so I'm going to reheat that and straighten it some. So I'm going to put some flux here on the top and on the bottom. Put a little more solder on my iron there. I'll heat it from underneath. There we go. That's just what I want right there. Okay, now I'm done with my iron. I'm going to tin it. Put some solder on there. And there's what the soldering looks like. Okay, so now we'll mount the block to the chassis. Now we don't have to put the plastic divider under this because what we're mounting it to is plastic here. So I'll just bend these out a little bit. Put the screw through there. Bring it down. Okay, so I'll just straighten that up so it's nice and neat there. Tighten our knot with a nut driver. I'll look at it, make sure it's nice and straight, which it is. And then we'll put this wire back in the hole in the slot down here. Okay, so the reason I put these fuses in these components that don't have a fuse, see the filament inside your house fuse? And see how small the filament is in the fuse that we're putting in? That's very small. So if something were to go wrong inside the stereo, like the rectifier diode's going bad and shorting, while it's taking time to burn this filament, and worse yet, if somebody has the wrong size fuse in the fuse box, like a 30 where a 30 amp where a 15 amp fuse should be, or a 20 amp, it would even take longer, and it could start a fire. So that is why I put this fuse in, because this filament is very small and it will burn before there's damage to the unit or a fire starts. And your 15 and 20 amp circuit breakers are equivalent to the fuses. And this is where the power transformer is, right here, and the secondary is over here. And there is no line fuse and no overcurrent protection in here anywhere. So without this fuse I'm putting in, it's all at the mercy of the house fuse or the circuit breaker. Okay, so we're gonna snap this little fuse in here. As you can see, it is UL listed, and it was UL listed without any overcurrent protection in it. Okay, so one other extra little thing I like to do is I like to take and put a little Loctite on this nut so that it doesn't back off on me in the future from like expanding and contracting. And the other thing I did is I put it where there's no writing so it looks like factory work. So here is the top of the unit. And there's the front of the unit. And there is the part that plays the CDs. Thanks for watching.